Remember what I said in our last video about going with the flow? When I fired up Satisfactory this morning, I was looking at these trees over here, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to make that into a little nature preserve in the middle of my factory? And that got my mind juices flowing, and I thought, this is actually all quite pleasant under here. Why don't we just make the whole area into kind of like a solarium? That's what I started doing, and right away I knew it was the right choice. The shadows that I put on the ground look pretty cool. And I only hope it still looks good with 2 layers of machines built on top. And I guess we'll find out today. Since the end of our last video, I've made a couple additions to get ready for this video. I've added this big glass platform that will throw shadows down here and keep this cool natural area looking good. And I've added these cement foundations here, and that's where the smelters are going to go for our Katerium ingots. I've also added a little bit more decoration to the front, some walls and some glass roof panels to allow light to get into the rest of the factory. In today's video, we're going to build up all the way to our AI limiters. We have our copper sheets, which is half of the equation, but the other half is a lot of quickwire, 1800 quickwire per minute. So today we're going to do 3 things. We're going to build our Katerium ingots, 150 per minute, using 10 smelters. And we're also going to do our quickwire using the fused quickwire recipe, which saves a ton of Katerium to make 1800 quickwire per minute. That's going to take 20 buildings and 3 rows of Mark V belts. I'm going to take the copper sheets we made in our last video with the quickwire we're going to make here in a little bit to make AI limiters, 90 AI limiters per minute. You need 1 AI limiter per minute for each electromagnetic control rod per minute. So we're going to have 18 buildings worth of AI limiters here to get us ready to finally put everything together for those ECRs, as I like to call them. Because it's really hard for me as a YouTuber to say electromagnetic control rods without messing up. I have to do a lot of takes. We're going to start right here making our Katerium ingots. We have our Katerium coming in right here. And then this is our copper ingots coming up from downstairs eventually to go over to the big glass platform so we can make some fused quickwire. But first we have to make the Katerium ingots. So let's get out our smelters. We need 10 of these. And we're going to have them come in on this side and go out the other direction. Ooh, raining, beautiful. Well, a second time in 3 videos, I put down all the machines backwards. So let me delete them and I'll put them in right side up, right side out. And we'll come back and hook up the whole thing at once just to see if we got it all right. Always fun. So these are facing the right direction. So this is how we'll start our production for the whole factory. We'll hook up this belt right here, and that will get the whole system working. All right, on to the next. Now we need 1800 quickwire per minute. Quickwire are like the screws of the late game. In the early game, you always need more screws than you can fit on a belt. Same thing with quickwire. You always need multiple belts of it when you do factories at scale, and this one's no different. This one happens to work out pretty well where we need similar amounts of assemblers for our fused quickwire as we do for AI limiters, so it will be a little bit easier to handle the multiple belts worth of stuff. So we're going to build 20 assemblers for our fused quickwire here, and we're going to build them going across here like so. There's going to be 3 rows of assemblers. And that's because we have 1800 quickwire. Basically, if you divide into 3 rows, it's about 600 a belt, which we can fit on Mark V belts. So we're going to do 3 rows of assemblers. I'm going to go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 to here. And this will be the next spot for us to split off for the next row of assemblers. And then we'll go down 4 more, 1, 2, 3, 4 to here for the last row. So while we left 4 spaces in between them, it gives you enough room for the assembler itself and then the inputs and the outputs on either side. Not too squished. We're not too concerned with keeping everything super compact here. All right, so we have our, well, what will be filled with Katerium ingots and our copper ingots coming in. So let's lay down our assemblers. We're going to do 6 in this row and 7 in the other rows. We need 20 of them. One of the rows has to have 1 fewer, so this is going to be the one. We got our first row of assemblers in for our fuse quick wires, and I want to take a look at the shadows. Oh, and they still shine through. Actually, that's quite cool. You can see the shadows of the belts coming around there. This will probably all be a little bit more covered up as we get more floors, but so far so good. Now we'll just do the other 2 rows, each of 7. I decided this power looks pretty sloppy here in the middle, so I'm just going to make this big rail and then split off the power to both directions from here with a couple wall outlets on this rail. Okay, it looks a little bit better, just a little bit more organized. Nothing too crazy. Okay, let's get back to making our assemblers over here in our last row of 7. All right, here's our 20 assemblers for our fuse quick wire. You can see all the machines filling up with the copper ingots as they go in. This will make 1800 quick wire. It's all coming in here with the Katerium underneath, which we haven't plugged in yet. All of the output comes down these belts, and there's 3 individual belts, each about a Mark 5 belts worth of output, and that will be brought up via lift to a floor we're going to add here in a second to manufacture our AI limiters. This wasn't too bad actually for the amount of machines they had. You know, with enough practice with each kind of machine, it's pretty easy for you to just kind of pump them out. I'm digging this bright green color. I might use this in other factories. I kind of change it around each factory just to keep it fresh, but I like this brighter color, I think. Add on this second floor, and then we'll be back to knock out our AI limiters. This is going quick, nice and smooth. Let's get our second floor going here. We're gonna make an identical size platform out of our glass frame foundations, because we need about the same amount of assemblers as we have on this floor. So let's lay down our assemblers on the exact same place as we did on the floor below. So this means 1 square in and right on the line of this foundation, like this. That should be exactly over the other one, and it is. Good. So now we need a row, 3 rows of 6 of these. I wonder if this is a problem of a hotfix of snapping. If I hit Control, which normally snaps it right next to the other one, it's actually moving it out to center it between these 2 foundations, which is a fine thing to do if you do want to center it like this. But I'm trying to somewhat squeeze a lot of machines into a small area, so I want them to be right next to each other. Control used to do that, and now it's snapping them to the middle of the foundation that you're lining up to. A little bit different. That must have happened in a hotfix or something, because it wasn't like that even when I started making this video. Look at our splitters out here for our copper sheets. We know we need to feed these things in, and we'll put them on the bottom level. If I don't use floor holes to like cleanly feed each assembler from below, I normally do it the way I did on the first floor, which is make a stack, 1 belt on the ground and 1 on a stackable conveyor pole, and that makes it pretty easy to just pop splitters straight onto the belt and feed it into the assembler. All right, let's get a little shadow check. One of the reasons why we wanted to do this is project some shadows on the ground down there, still have the sun come through, and yes, excellent. It's not quite as sunny as it was, but there's still some kind of dappled sunlight down here, which I think looks pretty cool. They started building this factory, they've patched Satisfactory, and one of the things they put back in were the angled roofs. Another, if you remember my last video, I can't say that word very well. The angled roofs. So that really gives us some good additions. Like for instance, you can put a glass roof on the corner over here to finish off these corners. You could never do that before. You'd have to use an angled wall to do that, and it never quite looked right. So now we have these angled roof pieces that we can use to really cover these off. And so I think we're going to cover up this whole area with the trees and make it kind of like a nature conservatory with maybe a little bit of a domed roof. And now that we can cover it off, we can actually close it off properly. I think it'll look pretty cool. But first, AI limiters. So we will need to do a little bit of balancing because these assemblers line up almost perfectly, but each quickwire assembler makes 90 per minute, and each AI limiter assembler takes 100 quickwire per minute. So our 7 assembler rows of quickwire make 720 per minute, which is good for this row. The row of 6 assemblers making quickwire only make 540 quickwire per minute, and that will leave the row of 6 assemblers short by 60 quickwire. So we're going to have to split off the overflow from these other 2 rows and work them into the first row, which is fine. Just a little bit of load balancing across the belts. won't be too hard. So that's what we're going to do now as we bring these things up. So this is our little balancer. It's very, very simple. So this will split off the overflow from this row. We'll go down here, merge with the input from downstairs. This will split off the overflow of those combined belts over to this last row, which will combine with the output from downstairs. And then this will give the right amount in each row of constructors. So now let's get this set up with the copper sheets coming in from the other side and then the quick wire coming from this side. There's one row sorted. I will hook up the rest of these rows and see you on the flip side. We'll leave this slightly unfinished in the way that we don't know exactly where the output's going to come out of the building. Once I get the rest of these mergers in, then we're going to decorate this and basically finish the building. I won't finish the very top, just to leave some flexibility for designs when we actually do the final machines. But this bottom part in this conservatory, I'm going to do a little decoration. Before we start decorating this building, let's just see if this all works. My favorite part, me building 6 million machines and then hooking up something to see if it all works. Like a test, like a challenge yourself. I could do it piece by piece, but why not just wait and then be really upset if it doesn't work? But because I'm perfect, I already know it's going to work. But here we go. Whoops. Haha! Perfection personified. The very first step. Actually, I had to make some quick wire because I ran out, so I forgot I unhooked that belt. All right, these smelters are looking good. Katerium working its way down. Got some belching smoke and fire, just like we're looking for. Why is this machine not getting any ingots? Let's find out. There's only one of our machines getting ingots. This one's getting some. That's good. Are these split? Oh, there you go. See, just another sign of perfection there. Having splitters not even attached to the belt. Always a good move. See, how many more of those do we have? Well, this one's attached to the belt. I wonder why that one's not working. Well, let's just redo it. Okay, now this is an absolute mystery. The first machine in every row appears to not be getting any Katerium, which is very bizarre. We go. For some reason, when that was, well, I see why that one's not getting anything, because that's not lined up. Wow, I did a really poor job here. I love how I advertise perfection. Fail miserably just to do like tier 1 basics. I definitely should have a YouTube channel. I'm such a master. And so if it shows a one way you can tell, let's see how this one turns into separate pieces. But those aren't getting anything because look, the belt's running straight through them. They're not actually splitting off. So attaching the belt directly to that splitter did not work for whatever reason. It does sometimes, and sometimes it does not. Also, let's just double check to make sure we have enough Katerium coming into the system. We need 450 Katerium ore per minute. Let's see if I remember to overclock this miner properly. 480. Okay, so we should be good there. It just needs a little bit to work its way through the manifold and make sure that the system is running. This guy should be full now. Okay. So it does take some time for the manifold to fill up and then properly overflow to all the machines. That's why it seems we're a little light on Katerium. This one's still on 94, but now it's filling up, so it should be 100 soon. And this one as well, it's starting to fill up beyond what it needs. So we should be good and having full Katerium output. And now we just need to wait for all of these to back up, which will definitely take longer. So I think that will eventually fill up and we'll be good to go. You can see we have some ingots going up. I'm sorry, we can see we have some quick wire going up each of our rows. There we go. All 3 rows are working. Let's go up here to the top and check out our little balancer to make sure it's passing everything around properly. So that sends half here, merges in with this one, and then here's the extra flowing all the way over onto this side. And if you see, this is already full because it is already getting, you can see this first row is full, which if we wouldn't have had this balancer, it would be starved the whole time. But because didn't use smart splitters and we're just splitting half of the input for now from each of these other rows to merge down here, this row will now fill first. It will fill from this end because they're coming from this end. You can see this machine is almost full. It stacks at 500, so it takes a little bit for quickwire to fill up. But we can see that we are getting full quick. Our AI limiters are already pouring out at a pretty good clip. But I did a very poor job of putting these splitters directly on the belts, as you can see, or I just didn't pay attention to the way that they were turned, which I recommend that you do, so you don't come into a situation like this where you have to go around and manually check every machine afterwards. It's much easier to measure twice and cut once, as my dad once told me. It was really not a great performance from DrLootCrate here. I mean, I probably screwed up 10 of these things. So our production's moving at full bore here for quickwire, and then our AI limiters, just about all these manifolds are all filled up, and we'll be cracking it 100% here shortly. So the next thing we have to do is decorate this building. I was gonna make one giant factory with every single part for the electromagnetic control rods under one roof. What I think I'm gonna do is basically close off this portion and have this be the kind of copper and Katerium building, and make a separate building over here. This is all taking a little bit more room than I thought. I have a second building over here with the iron and the steel. We have the coal coming in here, and we're gonna make all of our steel parts over there. Then my idea right now, which of course can always change as we're seeing, my idea right now is to make some sort of kind of sky bridge between the two buildings, and that will contain all of the assemblers for our electromagnetic control rods. And because we'll be moving this by drone, it might look pretty cool to have that sky bridge with the drone port on top of it. So that's where my head's at right now, but we'll see when we get there. So let me get over here and get decorating. Well, I did a decent amount of decorating without turning on my screen capture, so we joined the hot decorating action partway through the build. And while you're watching, take a sec to let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. So my original goal with this build was to make things a bit more three-dimensional than some of my previous buildings. I think I've kind of done that here, but I still have some big flat walls. I've at least tried to jazz those up with some interesting patterns. And also, like my little arches in the front, I've tried to use a couple of the new buildables where I can, mostly the new roof pieces, to try out a few new shapes. But my main goal has become to take advantage of the pretty site that I chose for this factory, make a design that will let the natural light in, and highlight some of the more interesting landscape elements that happen to fall in the middle of this factory. That's what's driven my Biodome idea. If you haven't seen this classic piece of 90s cinema, Pauly Shore and Alec Baldwin's brother somehow get themselves stuck inside this secure biology experiment in a glass dome in the middle of the desert. As you can imagine, hilarity ensues, but that doesn't really matter. So to build my biodome, I had to replenish my silica twice due to all the glass that I've been putting up, but I think the result has all been worth it. I love the way that it lets the light through. I've even managed to capture a space giraffe inside. It really adds to the kind of nature preserve effect. So stick around, buddy. This building's only going to get even better. I'm going to leave this far side of the building unfinished for now, so I can decide how to integrate the huge stator building that we'll be working on in the next video or two for the rest of this factory. But I'm pretty stoked about how this is turning out. So hit subscribe so you don't miss the next installment when we start working on that big factory. And a like is also much appreciated. It helps get our videos in front of more people and is a great way to support the channel. So that's it for today. Until next time, I'm DrLootCrate, and stay stoked out there.